Hey juniors, so I am still getting used to shooting all of these videos. I've done a couple for some of the other classes, but this is my first one for you guys, so we'll just see how this goes and go from there. So expect this to be a little rough for at least this first week until we get the hang of this, and then we'll just see where we go from there. So first things first, I hope that you guys have went ahead and looked at the teacher pages on GradeLink. I hope that you guys have access to that because that's the primary way that I'm going to be communicating assignments. So if you still haven't checked that out, you probably should. Otherwise, I don't know how you're going to find this video. I guess you could go to YouTube and just search for it with the new Gray County Academy account. But other than that, just stick to the teacher pages from now on because that's what we're going to be using for the most part. So let me switch over my screen here and try to remember how to do that. Okay, give me just a second. There we go. All right, here we are. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this kind of thing right here. Let me fix this real quick so it actually shows up the way I want it to. English 11, that's you guys. Okay, so I should be up here in the corner. You guys can see me there. That's all good. Okay, so this is what you should be seeing when you log on to GradeLink and go to the teacher pages. I've tried to list a couple of things here for you guys. And all of your assignments are going to be listed here as they should be. Now, you've probably already, if you have seen it, you've got these other pages such as the online learning orientation that you guys should read and make sure you don't have any questions about that. And also the online guidelines. There's still some pretty strict rules set in place about how we're doing this. Even though we're still online, there's still hard deadlines to follow. And of course, those deadlines will have grace extended if there are technology issues, because I realize that that is a limitation of doing all of this online. But we're just going to figure that out as we go. So, as always, if you guys need anything, you're free to shoot me a text over Remind. If you need access to the Remind thread, because I'm not sure if all of you are actually in it, go ahead and send me an email and I can send you the code and get you set up in that, because I think I'm missing like 2 or 3 of you that aren't in that, and you probably should be a part of that. But otherwise, take a look at these other pages, but we're going to be looking at the schedule for this week for now. So let me try to get that out of the way. It's not going anywhere. Okay, anyway, so as you can see here, all assignments are due on the date listed by midnight, and we're defining that as 11:59 p.m. that day. So that means Monday, March 30th. You should have, well, today, when you watch this, you should have your reading card completed by 11:59 on Monday night. You're also going to complete all your written assignments through Google Docs, and you'll share those docs with me at my RCA address, which is right here. You guys should know that. And then they should each be titled appropriately according to the following. So I'll walk you through what I want you to do here now, but for now, let's move on and look at what we're going to be doing here. So here I have that you're supposed to view the introductory video, which I will link as soon as this is finished. And then you are going to read chapters 7 through 8 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. All you have to do is just read those chapters, and then you'll do a reading card on those particular chapters. And for the reading cards, I'm trying to give you guys like more of a full question. It's probably more critical than you're used to, but that's just because I want you to explore on your own. A lot of this is going to be self-directed, which is going to be a new adventure for some of you, but I hope that this kind of online model really does prepare you for college. And I think that it will, because you're really going to be in charge of your own stuff. I'm not going to be there to guide you along as much as I'd like to, but I'm still going to make myself as available to you guys as I can in whatever way this is. So your reading card, I'm going to try to give you guys specific questions each time rather than just making it open-ended, because open-ended with the children's book, there's a lot that you could look into, but honestly, I would prefer that we keep it focused, and I think it'll help some of you to have a focused question rather than making it just respond to any part of it, which I always enjoyed that as a student, but I know that that's kind of a point of an issue for some of you guys, so I'm trying to give you guys some interesting questions to look at. So for your first one for chapter 7 through 8, I'm giving you the option of 2 different questions, which you can read right here. The first one has to do with how Rowling is establishing conflicts between Gryffindor and Slytherin houses. And that can be based upon the characters themselves, other elements of Hogwarts. And then the other part of that is, do the Slytherins receive too much critique or a bad rap from Rowling, or are they all simply awful? And if you are a Slytherin, if that sorting hat puts you in Slytherin house, How does any of this make you feel? Do you feel that your house gets a really bad rap? Do you feel like you guys really aren't that bad and that ambition may be a good thing and cunning is actually a good thing? It's just maybe you've just seen characters that embody these aspects in like the worst kind of fashion. Maybe that's something that you can discuss. Your other question is, what elements of foreshadowing are present in these chapters and what do they add to the reader's experience? Now, those of you that know this story really well and have read all the books, seen all the films, or you've seen all the films at least, it's going to be rather interesting trying to answer this question because you do not have to answer it as if this is the first time you're reading it. In fact, if you do answer this question with foreknowledge of what is coming later on throughout the rest of the 7-book saga, there's some interesting things and interesting hints that are being dropped. So maybe you can talk about those. But when you answer that second part of how that adds to the reader's experience, you may want to consider that from like, try to think of when you read this the first time or when you saw the movie the first time, what kind of effect did that have on you? And then you can relate that to like readers in like a more universal kind of fashion. Okay, so that's your assignment for Monday. Now, the rest of this, I'm actually going to have you guys work on a longer assignment over each week. So you'll get some kind of new assignment prompt on Monday, and then you'll have to basically draft that throughout the week. And it's not going to be long. I'm thinking like 2 to 3 pages max. This first one is 2.5 pages to 3 pages just because of what you're doing with it. But I feel like having a more broader thing in addition to these more smaller assignments is going to help keep you guys focused so you're actually still working on stuff. I'm trying not to give you guys a whole lot, but just because I know you're juggling all the other classes in this new fashion, and I don't want to give you too much, but you're also juniors in high school, so I know that you can handle it. And again, I'm available. Email, remind, anything. Like, get to me how you need to. Send me a message over Google Hangout. Once I get that set up, you can do that through my RCA address, and we'll go from there. But the first thing that I want to look at is the assignment and the rubric for this particular essay. So if I just go ahead and click here, which you guys will be able to click there as well, should bring up this Google Doc that you are free to view. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but I'm just going to explain kind of what's going on here. So this is your weekly essay assignment, and it is about the power of world building. Now, world building is a verb, and that's a writer's act of creating a fictional world. Now, that's a rather loose definition on my part of the term, but that's the best thing I can come up with without getting too utterly specific on it. So I've given you an excerpt here about what world building is. You guys can read through that, get some ideas, but the key thing that I want you to take from this when you do read it is that if you don't, and this is written to writers themselves, so keep that in mind as you read this, keep the audience's mind. But if you don't make me feel the dirt under my fingernails, then you still haven't created a real place. If the reader doesn't get a little lightheaded from the stench of the polluted river, or transported by the beauty of the geometric flower gardens, then something is missing. I believe that J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World really seems to fit this particular kind of, this particular kind of thing. And even in that second sentence, most of all, there should be a few spots, bars, taverns, crypts, spaceports, where the reader really feels at home, as if you could imagine hanging out there for real. To me, and maybe it's just because like I love the story so much, but to me, that is what Hogwarts is. That's what the entire Wizarding World is. It feels real because JK has given it so many interesting details and does so in a way that she doesn't always tell us everything, but she does so in a way that draws us in and that makes us want to keep reading. What is it about this world that's so interesting? What is it about Diagon Alley, if you will, that makes it so fascinating with its, its own bank and, their own system of money with galleons and sickles and all that. And then, you've also got books on potion making and wizards history, and like they've got their own whole culture. J.K. Rowling not only created an entire world, but she gave it a sense of economy and place and class and politics. And it's amazing. Now, of course, in the first book, these things are not always all that apparent, but there are definitely things that make it interesting. that she builds this world in a very fascinating way. And so that's basically what you're going to be exploring. But mainly, you're going to be exploring the kind of effect that these details create upon the reader. So, in the first 6 chapters of exposition for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Rowling uses her own skills of world building to create a great effect on the reader. Whether you're returning to the world or experiencing it for the first time, you have experienced some kind of effect, whether you want to admit it or not. In a rather short essay of at least 2.5 to 3 pages in length, and of course, Times New Roman, font 12, double spaced, as always, you need to answer the following prompt. How does Rowling's world building draw the reader into her wizarding world? In other words, how does she use subtlety to create intrigue on the reader's part? And in your conclusion, which I'm trying to give you guys some focus there so you know where to go with this, you will need to consider how these world-building elements contribute to the universal themes of children's literature, that of a lost child and also growing up. Okay? So, remember from that first day before we started reading Harry Potter, when we were still waiting on the books, some of you weren't there, but for those of you that were there, we went through the entire history of children's literature, starting with Alice in Wonderland and then going forward to where Harry Potter shows up in that canon of in that sequence of children's lit. And throughout all of them, there was that same theme of a lost child. And I put lost in quotation marks there because they don't have to be lost in a new world like Alice is in Wonderland. It's more lost in the sense of they're trying to figure out who they are. And by figuring out who they are, they end up growing up. Now for Harry has no idea who he is. And as you guys may remember, the significance of his last name being Potter and how people who were aliens or foreigners in a country, they had no idea where they came from, were buried in the Potter's field. That's why Harry's given that last name, because Harry himself doesn't know where he comes from. This entire book is mainly about Harry coming to a realization of who he is as a wizard, who he is in relation to this war with Voldemort and dark magic, and how he is the boy who lived and the pressures of fame and celebrity and a lot of other things that are going to show up as you guys continue reading and looking at this. But again, Rowling is exploring the whole lost child idea through her world building as well. I mean, he's a lost child trying to find his way in a new world. You've got this giant that shows up at your doorstep while your uncle has taken you to this random island in the middle of nowhere and then whisk you off on a whirlwind adventure to go buy your school supplies, but not just for any school, but for a school where you're actually going to learn magic and figure out who you are as a person. It's all related to this lost child idea. So that's something that you guys can explore and look at in there. But on a more technical note, you'll also need to cite direct evidence of some world-building examples throughout the first 6 chapters. So that means taking things directly from the text, quoting them exactly as they appear in there. You guys know how to do that. You know, introduce the quotes, all that stuff. You know, prove the points. Don't just drop a quote in there without introducing it or explaining it. We've trying to work on that a little bit more, but this is going to give you guys some work to do there. And the biggest thing you need to do is think about where actions or events or magic isn't exactly explained, but it simply occurs. Because these are the things that are going to ultimately create this intrigue. And those are the moments that are going to be worth discussing and explaining their effect on the reader. Always focusing in on how these things give the reader a desire to keep reading. Now, for some of you, that may be a little bit difficult. So you need to go back to the first time you experienced the story, and that may help you. But also, I mean, you should be able to do this even reading it a second, third, fourth, or fifth or sixth time for my really big Potterheads out there in the class. So as I note here, the prompt is multifaceted, meaning there's a lot going on in it. So you'll need to draw upon your own knowledge of the traits of children's lit, our class discussion of the chapters, your own understanding of Harry's last name, and his interpersonal quest to understand who he is. So we've got a couple of due dates on Friday, April 3rd at midnight. Your completed rough draft will be due. So once you do that over the weekend, I will apply comments and suggestions to your rough drafts, and you'll be expected to apply this feedback and commentary to your final draft. So basically what I'm going to do is after you share your Google Doc with me by midnight that night, or by midnight on Friday, I'll look through it and I'll highlight things, give you some good feedback, some more constructive feedback, be like, this is really good here. This could use a little bit more work. Maybe you want to explain this part here a little bit better. And then I'll mark a couple of errors here and there. What I will not do is proofread your entire essay for you, because I want that to be something that you do, but I will go through and mark things and then explain why things need to be fixed on. I'll do a little bit of that for each of you if I notice like a consistent pattern, but I'm not going to mark every misused comma or missing comma. I'll just mark those a few times, and then you can figure out the rest on your own. And then on Monday, April 6th through Tuesday the 7th, you will apply that feedback and commentary. I will have those finished by Monday for you. And then on Wednesday, April 8th of next week, you will submit your final draft of that essay. So starting today on Monday, you'll be able to start working on the essay, and you have a week and a half to finish it. It's also 2.5 to 3 pages. So there shouldn't be any issue here. So anyway, so that's that. And grading, as I mentioned right here, there's a separate rubric that will be used to evaluate your final draft. You'll also receive a completion grade for a completed rough draft of at least 2 pages, which you don't have to have the full 2.5 or 3, but you should at least aim for 2 full pages. And by full pages, I mean if you add 1 more character, you go to the 3rd page. And those will be graded holistically based upon content length and if you answered the prompt. And I will likely grade those. I'll grade that first draft according to how I grade your reading cards. I won't be as strict as a grader on that, but I just want to see that you're actually showing some effort and you're doing those 3 things of, you know, you're hitting the content, you're hitting the length, and you're actually answering the prompt in a full kind of fashion. And that'll be that. So let's go back over here to GradeLink. I got to log back in because it kicked me out. And then we'll click on this rubric, and I will show you guys what you're going to be looking at there. So basically, this is just like your letter that you wrote to Mrs. Strover. These categories are pretty much the same outside of like not having to use rhetorical strategies. If you do use rhetorical strategies, that's great. Like throw some ethos, logos, and pathos in there, because that'll always make it, well, I'll make it better. I've just used improper grammar. Look at that, the English teacher using improper grammar. Who knew? Okay, I do it all the time. I'm talking, I'm not writing. It's fine, right? Right. So, so here you go. You're graded on 4 things. They're each valued at the same point value. The highest you can get on each of these is 25 points. 25 points on everything. There's 100. And of course, if you hit somewhere in between the good and excellent, I'll give like 21 to 24, depending on where you are on that range. But I'll also do the same thing in between the categories as well. So like it's not a hard 10, 15, 20, or 25 points, but depending on where you are and how well you hit these things, you may score somewhere in the middle. So it's possible to get somewhere between like an 80 to 100. It may not just be a straight 80 or a straight 100. There's a lot of discrepancy in there where things could happen. So you're graded on whether you answer the prompt and how you include evidence, and if you do that properly. If you are original, like you can be personal in this when it comes to, you know, certain ideas. You can use, well, let me say this in the right way. I want you to explore world building first, but maybe in your conclusion, then you can bring in some I pronouns and like that kind of thing and explain the effect it has on you as a particular reader. But I want you to try to stay away from that and keep it more universal and like how the book is so good in its use of world building and how Rowling is so good in her use of world building. And that effect that it creates on like general readers, and then you can like, you know, specify it to yourself, but don't do that until you get to your conclusion. And then if you use appropriate conventions of standard written English, and you vary your sentences. And by varying sentences, I mean that, you know, they don't all start the same, but you're also using a variety of simple, compound, complex, all that stuff. I don't want a full paragraph of simple sentences. On that same token, I don't want a full paragraph of just complex sentences either. So that is how that works. So let me close out of that, go back over here. So also for the rest of the week, you can see everything here. So like Wednesday, you'll be reading chapters 9 and 10. I'm going to have a lecture uploaded, possibly with some Google Slides attached as well. You guys need to take notes on that. Your reading card will have 4 options there. I'll go over this in more detail on the video for Wednesday. Or no, take that back. I won't do that on the video for Wednesday, because the video for Wednesday is just going to be my lecture on chapter 7 through 10, what you're reading this week. And then you've got some stuff there. There will also be a quiz. You can take the quiz anytime once you've read through chapter 7 through 10. Yeah, I think it's finished now. I just need to go unlock it. I will lock that quiz though Wednesday at midnight, so just be aware of that, that you won't be able to take it unless you do that. But there's a combination of multiple choice questions. Yeah, Mr. Marsh giving multiple choice questions. Better count yourself lucky. And then there's also a couple of short answer questions, but they're really easy. They shouldn't be too difficult. So just make sure that you are well versed in chapters 7 through 10. It's mainly just going to be based on content stuff. So like, of course, one of the first questions is like, what does Neville's grandmother send him so that he can remember things? As long as you know the name of that object, that's kind of like the level of questions you're going to be asked. But again, you'll also be asked like, in chapter 10, how does Hermione's character change and what does this reveal about her? Or what effect does this have on Harry and Ron and that kind of thing. But that's getting into spoiler territory for those of you that haven't read yet or are familiar with the story. I don't know why I keep saying those. It's just Addie, but you know, I feel like I need to be less specific. But anyway, yeah, just messed that up. But there you go. Sorry, Addie. But anyway, so you can, yeah, you'll just take the quiz whenever you want to. I'll go ahead and unlock that now so you guys can take that. The multiple choice questions are worth 5 points apiece, and the short answers are worth 10. There's also a bonus section, however, in which, depending on how well you can explain everything there is to know about Quidditch, as Oliver Wood explains it to Harry, you'll basically just outline the basic rules, players, and the different balls in Quidditch. And if you can do all of that, you'll get 10 bonus points. So there you go. So yeah, so there's some sneak peek preview into the quiz, but like I said, it won't be, it's not that, like the bonus question and then that Hermione question are probably the hardest things on there, but you guys will be fine. And then Friday, of course, what I'm going to try to do each week is that we will not actually hang out as a class until the Friday. I'm doing that with all of my classes, having actual class on Fridays, but most of the time for you guys, and like for 10th grade, you guys are going to have like a kind of Socratic seminar discussion. I haven't posted your questions for that yet, but I'm going to try to get those done within the next couple of days, but they'll be up there probably by Wednesday, so you guys can start preparing that. And just some deeper things that we can discuss, things that are going on, your thoughts on the world itself, what you think about Hogwarts. We might critique some characters. You know, you can take a stab at Hermione if you think she's the most annoying person in the world, which granted she is in the beginning of all of this. And so I will send an invite to your Gmail account at 2:15 p.m. and you need to join it within the next 10 minutes, and then by 2:25 p.m. so we can get started promptly at 2:30. Now I'm doing it at 2:30 because I know you guys would normally have study hall at that time, but also like I didn't figure y'all wanted to wake up at 8:30 when you're not really in school. I don't know what your other teachers are doing, but I knew that you guys wouldn't have a conflict if they were doing like a same time class stuff. So we'll just do it during then, and then we should be fine. But I'll have those questions written out for you on a separate teacher page if you just want to go up here and look at that from there. But otherwise, also on Friday, you'll just submit your rough draft of your essay by midnight. But otherwise, that is that. Make myself back to full screen. Forgot I was just in the corner there for a while. But basically, that's everything. I know that was a lot, so if there's parts of this that you need to pause and rewind and check again, feel free to do that. I mean, it's your video. You can do whatever you want to with it. I feel like I've been talking for too long, so I'm going to shut up and stop this and let you guys get started on all of your stuff. So if you got questions, just email me, text me. I'm always going to have my phone close by while we are doing all of this. So let's have a good month online and let's see where this goes. I'm actually really excited about this. But as I said, I'm going to shut up now and let you guys get to it.